Jake Morrison stood in the middle of the huge chamber and felt very small. Around him sat creatures from 17 different worlds, each one bigger and older than any human. The walls reached up so high he could barely see the top. Strange lights floated in the air, and the whole place smelled like metal and something he could not name. For 3 years, Jake had come to this place every month. He always carried the same message from Earth. Humans wanted to join the Galactic Council as full members. They wanted a voice in the decisions that affected their world and their people. Each time, the Council said no. Today felt different, though. The air was thick with tension, and the alien representatives whispered among themselves in languages that sounded like music, grinding stone and wind through caves. Jake knew this would be his last chance to make them understand. Prime Veltar spoke first. His body was made of pure energy trapped inside a clear container that floated above the other council members. When he talked, his voice filled the entire chamber. Human Morrison, we have heard your request many times. The answer remains the same. Your species is too young, too violent, and too quick to act without thinking. Jake felt his hands turn into fists, but he kept his voice calm. Prime Veltar, humans have helped this galaxy for 50 years. Our doctors have saved billions of lives across dozens of worlds. Our soldiers have protected your trade ships from pirates. Our engineers have built the defense systems that keep your worlds safe. A creature that looked like it was made of flowing water and light drifted forward. This was Sage Nixandra, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. Her voice was soft but cold. Yes, human. You are very good at doing things. You build and fight and heal with great skill. But wisdom is not about doing. Wisdom is about understanding. Your people act first and think later. This is the way of children, not leaders. Another council member spoke up. Queen Zixixth looked like a giant insect, with glowing eyes and sharp claws. When she talked, her voice clicked and buzzed. The human speaks of what his people have done for us, but they forget what we have done for them. We gave them the stars. We taught them to travel between worlds. We showed them how to speak with other species. Without us, humans would still be trapped on their single small planet. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he pushed it down. We are grateful for what you taught us, but we learned those lessons well. We have become more than students. We deserve to be treated as equals. The chamber filled with sounds that might have been laughter from the different species. Prime Veltar's energy form grew brighter. Equals. Human. The youngest member of this council has walked among the stars for 3,000 of your years. The oldest has seen the birth and death of entire solar systems. Your species discovered fire yesterday compared to us. You are talented children, nothing more. Lisa Carter, who had come with Jake from Earth, stepped forward. She was smaller than Jake, but her voice was strong. Then what do you want from us? Should we keep protecting your ships and healing your sick and building your machines while you make all the decisions? Should we keep being your servants forever? The insect queen's eyes flashed with what might have been amusement. You are free to serve or not serve as you choose, little human. But leadership requires wisdom that comes only with age. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, your species will be ready to sit with us as equals. Jake looked around the chamber one more time. He saw the same thing he had seen for 3 years. Beings who thought they were better than humans simply because they were older. Creatures who took everything humans did for them, but gave nothing back except condescension and dismissal. He made his decision. Very well, Jake said, his voice cutting through the whispers and murmurs. Humanity withdraws our request to join this council. We also end all agreements we have with council worlds. No more medical help. No more protection for your trade routes. No more sharing our technology or knowledge. Humans will take care of themselves from now on. The chamber went completely silent. Even the floating lights seemed to stop moving. Prime Veltar's energy form flickered like a candle in the wind. You cannot be serious, human. The trade agreements alone are worth billions. The medical research your people do saves countless lives. The protection you provide keeps entire sectors safe. Jake was already walking toward the exit. Lisa followed him, her footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. Those agreements are ended as of right now, Jake called back without turning around. You wanted to treat us like children? Fine. Children don't have jobs or responsibilities. Figure out your own problems. The massive doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. As they walked down the long hallway toward their ship, Lisa spoke quietly. Think they'll change their minds? Jake smiled for the first time in months. Eventually. But first they need to learn what the galaxy looks like without humans keeping it running. Behind them, the council chamber erupted into chaos as 17 different species tried to talk at once, all asking the same question. What had they just done? Captain Ryan Torres watched the last human transport ship disappear into the stars. From his position on the bridge of the Earth Federation vessel New Horizon, he could see dozens of other ships doing the same thing. Every human settlement, research, station, and outpost in council space was being emptied. The operation had a simple name: Silent Departure. Status report, Ryan called to his first officer. Commander Kate Hayes looked up from her computer screen. The Freedom just finished loading everyone from the research stations near Centauri. The Liberty and Independence are picking up the last civilians from the trading posts around Vega. Total count so far is 847,000. Humans from 43 different star systems. Ryan nodded. The numbers were huge, but everything was going according to plan. For 6 months, ever since Jake Morrison had walked out of the council chamber, humans had been quietly preparing for this moment. They had been careful not to let the council know what was coming. When the aliens finally realized what was happening, it would be too late to stop it. What about our defense systems? Ryan asked. All the automated defense platforms have been shut down remotely, Kate replied. The medical research data has been wiped from every computer system. The security protocols for the trade routes have been transferred to council forces. She paused and looked at her captain. Sir, are we really sure about this? We've been protecting some of these systems for decades. The people there depend on us. Ryan understood her concern. It felt wrong to abandon places they had sworn to protect. But the council had made their choice clear. They wanted humans to be servants, not partners. The council thinks we're children, Commander. Children don't have responsibilities like defending star systems or providing medical care to billions of people. Let them handle it themselves. Dr. Alex Parker, the ship's science officer, turned from his console with a worried expression. Captain, I'm getting reports from all over council space. There's a plague outbreak in the Corvin system that's getting worse without our medical teams. Pirates are attacking ships on the outer rim routes more often. The fusion reactors at the EA Thermal Trading Hub are breaking down without our engineers to maintain them. Not our problem anymore, Ryan said firmly. Signal the fleet. We're heading for the Void Territories. The Void Territories were a region of space that the Council had declared too dangerous and worthless to explore. They were wrong on both counts. Human scout ships had been secretly mapping these systems for years, finding worlds rich in resources and perfect for colonization. If the Council wanted humans gone from their space, humanity would go somewhere the aliens had never even thought to look. 3 weeks later, the human fleet arrived at their new home. Governor Alan Brooks stood on the observation deck of the massive colony ship Terra Nova and watched a beautiful blue-green planet grow larger in the view screen. This world had everything humans needed: clean water, breathable air, fertile soil, and vast deposits of useful minerals. Best of all, it was completely outside Council territory. Sir, his assistant Jennifer Walsh approached with a communication tablet. We're receiving distress signals from Council space. Multiple systems are reporting critical failures in infrastructure that we used to maintain. The Council has sent us 3 formal requests asking us to come back." Alan couldn't help but smile. "What kind of requests?" "Very polite ones, sir. They're offering to discuss new partnerships and mutually beneficial arrangements." "Tell them we're busy," Alan said, still watching their new world. "We have a civilization to build." The planet below them was perfect for human settlement. The continents were large and green, with mountain ranges that probably held valuable metals and vast oceans teeming with life. Weather satellites showed that the climate was stable, with no dangerous storms or extreme temperatures. It was like Earth, but newer and cleaner and completely theirs. Behind the Terra Nova, hundreds of other ships were taking up positions around the planet. Colony ships full of families and children. Industrial vessels loaded with manufacturing equipment, research ships carrying the best human scientists and engineers, military vessels ready to defend their new home. Everything humanity needed to build a new society from scratch. "How long until the first settlements are operational?" Alan asked. Jennifer consulted her tablet. "The advanced teams will have temporary shelters built within 2 weeks. The main colonial infrastructure should be complete within 6 months. The orbital facilities and defense platforms will take about a year." "Excellent," Alan said. "And our other colonies?" 16 other worlds are being settled simultaneously. Each one has been chosen for specific strategic and resource advantages. The mineral-rich asteroid belts will provide raw materials. The agricultural worlds will feed our growing population. The research stations will push the boundaries of human knowledge without council restrictions. That was perhaps the most exciting part of their new situation. For 50 years, humans had worked under council oversight, following alien rules about what research was safe and what technologies were acceptable. Now they were free to pursue any scientific avenue they chose. Human creativity and innovation, unleashed from bureaucratic control, would likely produce advances that would surprise even themselves. "Sir," the communications officer called from across the observation deck, "we're receiving another transmission from Council Space. This one is marked as urgent." "Put it through," Alan said. The image of Prime Veltar appeared on the main screen, his energy form flickering with what looked like desperation. "Governor Brooks, this is Council Prime Veltar. We must speak urgently about the current situation. The consequences of humanity's withdrawal are more severe than anticipated." Alan raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry, Prime Veltar, but humanity is no longer part of Council Space. We have our own territories to develop. Perhaps you should contact your member species for whatever assistance you need." "Please, you must understand." Veltar's form pulsed frantically. "Systems are failing across our territory. The economic disruption alone threatens the stability of multiple worlds. We need human expertise to address these crises." "That sounds like a council problem," Alan replied calmly. "As you made very clear to us, humans are too young and immature to handle such important responsibilities. Surely the wise, ancient council species can manage a few technical difficulties." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the observation deck in silence. Jennifer smiled. "Think they'll actually learn from this?" Alan looked back at their new world, where the first human shuttles were already descending toward the surface. Eventually, but first they need to understand what they gave up when they decided humans weren't worth listening to. The council chamber had never been so chaotic. Prime Veltar's energy form flickered wildly as representatives from across the galaxy shouted over each other in dozens of different languages. 3 months had passed since humanity's departure, and the consequences were becoming impossible to ignore. "Order! Order!" Veltar's voice boomed through the chamber, but the panic was too strong. Emergency reports were flooding in from every sector of Council Space, and each one painted a picture of systems failing and civilizations struggling. Defense Coordinator Thaxel stepped forward, his tall, crystalline body resonating with alarm, frequencies that made the air itself vibrate. The situation is critical, Prime Veltar. Pirate attacks have increased by over 300% on all the trade routes that humans use to protect. The marauder fleets are pushing deeper into our territory every day, and our ships cannot respond fast enough to stop them. The chamber filled with worried murmurs. The Council's approach to defense had always been slow and methodical, relying on massive fleets that took weeks to organize and deploy. Human forces had been different, using small, fast ships that could respond to threats within hours. Without that rapid response capability, the pirates were having a field day. Sage Nyxandra floated forward, her gossamer form dimmed with concern. The philosophical implications trouble me deeply. Our traditional approach of meditation and careful consideration proves completely ineffective against enemies who only understand force. We cannot negotiate with beings who attack first and ask questions later. Chief Healer Morden stepped up next, his plant-like tendrils drooping with exhaustion. The medical crisis grows worse every day. The Corvin plague has spread to 14 star systems now. Our traditional remedies work very slowly if they work at all. The humans' rapid treatment protocols and advanced medicines could have stopped this outbreak in its early stages. Hive Queen ZX Kath's mandibles clicked nervously as she spoke. My trade hubs report critical infrastructure failures throughout the galaxy. The fusion reactors that humans designed and maintained are breaking down one by one. My engineers cannot repair them because the technology is too advanced for our understanding. Entire space stations may have to be abandoned. Prime Veltar's form pulsed with growing anxiety as the reports continued. Each one painted the same picture. Systems that had worked perfectly for decades were now failing because humans were no longer there to maintain them. The Council had taken human services for granted for so long that they had forgotten how dependent they had become. What about the economic impact? Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Treasury Minister Kulveth, whose body was made of living metal, projected holographic displays that showed devastating statistics. Trade efficiency is down 67% across all sectors. The cost of system defense has increased by nearly 900%. Medical response times have slowed by over 1,200%. The economic damage from losing human services exceeds our worst projections. The numbers were staggering. Humans had been involved in virtually every aspect of galactic civilization, from the mundane tasks of maintaining equipment to the critical work of defending against external threats. Their sudden absence had created a vacuum that the Council was completely unprepared to fill. Perhaps, Sage Nyxandra said hesitantly, we may have miscalculated the true value of human contributions to galactic stability. Veltar's energy form brightened with irritation. Impossible. They are a young species, crude and impulsive. Their contributions were useful, yes, but surely not essential to the functioning of our civilization. At that moment, Communications Officer Varric burst into the chamber without waiting for permission to speak. Prime Veltar, urgent message from the border systems. The Draconic Empire has launched a full-scale invasion of the Spiral Arm. They claim the territory is undefended and ripe for conquest. The chamber fell completely silent. The Draconic Empire had been the Council's greatest enemy for over 1,000 years. They were a warlike species that believed in conquest and expansion, everything the peaceful Council opposed. For centuries, the dragons had been kept in check by a combination of Council diplomacy and human military forces. Without humanity's rapid response fleets patrolling the borders, the ancient enemy was making its move. "Mobilize our fleet immediately," ordered Thaxel, his crystalline form glowing with emergency frequencies. "How long until we can mount an effective defense?" Varric consulted his readings with a grim expression. "Minimum 6 standard cycles. To gather our forces and coordinate a response, sir. The humans could have had a strike force there in 18 hours. The reality of their situation hit the Council like a physical blow. They had built their entire civilization around the assumption that humans would always be there to handle the problems that required quick action and practical solutions. Without that safety net, they were discovering just how helpless they really were. "Send an immediate message to the human territories," Veltar ordered, his pride finally cracking under the weight of necessity. "Request emergency negotiations for the restoration of our partnership." Varik looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we have been sending messages to human space for weeks now. The only response we have received is the same every time. The children are busy playing in their new sandbox. Perhaps the adults should try handling their own problems for once." Queen Zekth's mandibles clicked with frustration. Surely they cannot be serious about abandoning their responsibilities to galactic civilization. They must understand that their actions affect billions of innocent lives. "I don't think they see them as their responsibilities anymore," Varik replied quietly. "According to our intelligence reports, humans are establishing multiple colonies in the Void territories. They appear to be building an entirely separate civilization, completely independent from Council space." The chamber erupted in new waves of discussion and argument. Some representatives called for military action to force human compliance. Others suggested economic sanctions. A few even proposed attempting to negotiate with the Draconic Empire directly. Prime Veltar listened to the chaos around him and felt something he had not experienced in centuries: genuine fear. The Council had existed in peace and prosperity for so long because humans had been their sword and shield, their problem solvers and crisis responders. They had mistaken human willingness to serve for weakness, their efficiency for simplicity. Now, they were learning the true cost of their arrogance. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of pirates and plagues and hostile empires. The Council's philosophical approach to governance worked well in times of peace, but it was completely inadequate for dealing with real crises. "Continue attempting to contact human leadership," Veltar said finally, "and begin preparations for direct negotiations. It appears we may need to reconsider our position regarding humanity's place in galactic civilization." The chamber slowly emptied as representatives returned to their sectors to deal with their individual crises. Veltar remained alone. His energy formed dim with the weight of realization. The humans had left in silence, taking with them not just their ships and soldiers, but the very foundation upon which Council civilization rested. And now, as everything began to crumble, the Council was finally beginning to understand just how badly they had misjudged the species they had dismissed as children. Commander Julie Barnes stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pioneer and smiled as she looked at the tactical display. In just 6 months, humanity had accomplished something that would have made the Council jealous if they had known about it. 17 thriving colonies, 6 major industrial complexes, and a defensive network that could protect their entire territory from any threat. "Status report, Lieutenant," she called to her navigation officer. Lieutenant Chris Adams looked up from his console with excitement in his voice. "Ma'am, Colony 7 just reported their first successful harvest. The crop yields are exceeding all our projections by 23%. Colony 12 has brought their heavy manufacturing facilities online ahead of schedule, and the asteroid mining operations in the Vega Prime Belt are producing refined materials faster than our transport ships can carry them away." Julie nodded with satisfaction. Without Council oversight and bureaucratic restrictions, human colonies were developing at an incredible pace. People worked harder when they were building something for themselves rather than serving alien masters, who treated them like children. "What about our defensive positions?" she asked. Chief Tactical Officer Sam Rodriguez highlighted several points on the display screen. "The early warning network is fully operational across all our territory. We have sensor buoys monitoring every possible approach route to human space. Any Council or hostile forces would be detected at least 3 days before they could reach our colonies. The mobile defense platforms are showing incredible efficiency, too. Without Council restrictions on weapons technology, our engineers have improved their effectiveness by 400%. Dr. Nina Foster, the Chief Science Officer, approached with her own report. her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Commander, our research stations are making breakthrough discoveries almost daily, without Council limitations on what they call dangerous research. We have developed new propulsion systems that are twice as fast as anything in their databases. Our medical teams have created treatments for diseases that Council physicians said were incurable. The defensive technologies we are developing would revolutionize space warfare." Julie felt a surge of pride. For 50 years, humans had worked, under alien supervision, following rules about what research was acceptable and what technologies were too risky to pursue. Now, freed from those constraints, human creativity was exploding in directions the Council had never imagined. "And how is morale among our people?" she asked. Chief Medical Officer Ben Clark stepped forward with a genuine smile. "Higher than it has been in decades, Commander. People feel like they are building something important, something that belongs to them. The work is hard, but it has real purpose. We are not just serving as the Council's cleanup crew anymore. We are creating our own future." The communications console chimed with an incoming message, interrupting their discussion. Communications Officer Laura Mitchell looked up with surprise. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from Council space. It is marked as an emergency diplomatic priority." Julie raised an eyebrow. This was the first direct communication they had received from the Council since the Exodus began. "Put it through on the main screen." The image of Prime Veltar appeared, his energy form flickering with what could only be described as desperation. The proud, condescending tone that had characterized all previous Council communications was completely gone. "Commander Barnes, I am Council Prime Veltar. We urgently need to establish communication with your leadership regarding the current crisis situation in Council space." Julie kept her expression neutral, though inside she felt a moment of satisfaction. "I am sorry, Prime Veltar, but humanity is no longer part of Council space. We have our own territories to manage and develop. Perhaps you should contact your member species for whatever assistance you require. Please, you must understand the gravity of the situation." Veltar's form pulsed frantically. "The Draconic Empire has invaded the Spiral Arm and conquered multiple systems. The plague outbreak has spread to 30 star systems and shows no signs of slowing. Our trade networks are collapsing across the galaxy. We desperately need human assistance to address these multiple crises." Julie exchanged glances with her crew members, seeing the same mixture of satisfaction and concern on their faces. They had all served in Council space before the Exodus. They knew the people who were suffering because of the Council's failures, even if they had no sympathy for the Council leadership itself. "That sounds like a Council problem, not a human problem," Julie replied calmly. "We are just children, remember? Surely the wise, ancient Council species can handle a few pirates and a disease outbreak without needing help from such an immature species." Veltar's energy form pulsed with increasing desperation. "We may have been hasty in our previous assessment of humanity's role in galactic affairs. Perhaps we could discuss new terms of cooperation and partnership? I am afraid that kind of decision is far above my authority level," Julie said with false sympathy. "You would need to speak directly with our civilian leadership. But I should warn you that they are extremely busy these days. Building a new civilization is very demanding work. Children's work, as you might say." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence for a moment before several of them started laughing. "Do you think they will actually try to negotiate seriously this time?" asked Rodriguez. Julie turned back to the tactical display where it showed their expanding network of colonies and defenses. "Eventually, yes. But first they need to fully understand what the galaxy looks like without humans holding everything together." The display showed more than just military installations. It showed cities growing on alien worlds, farms producing food in alien soil, factories building new technologies that the Council had never dreamed of. It showed humanity not just surviving without the Council, but thriving in ways they never could have under alien oversight. "Commander," Dr. Foster said thoughtfully, Do you think we should help them? I mean, there are innocent people suffering because of their leadership's mistakes. Julie considered the question carefully. It was the same moral dilemma that many humans were struggling with. They had no quarrel with the ordinary citizens of Council worlds, many of whom they had worked alongside for years. But they also could not simply return to their old role as servants and problem solvers for beings who had treated them with such contempt. That decision will be made by people far above my rank, she said finally. But I suspect that if the Council wants human help, they are going to have to offer something more substantial than just asking nicely. The tactical display updated again, showing new colonies coming online and new defensive positions being established. Humanity was not just building a new civilization in the void territories. They were building a better one, free from the prejudices and limitations that had held them back in Council space. Set course for the research station at Kepler 442, Julie ordered. I want to see these new propulsion systems Dr. Foster mentioned. As the Pioneer jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the troubled Council space, Julie felt optimistic about humanity's future. They had been forced to leave their old home, but they had found something better, the freedom to be what they truly were, not what others expected them to be. The Council would learn, eventually, but it would be on humanity's terms this time, not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The Council chambers had become a place of constant crisis meetings. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat quietly in the human delegation area, watching the panic unfold around him. He had been called back from retirement specifically for this moment, and he was finding the situation both satisfying and deeply concerning. Representatives from across the galaxy were shouting over each other in a dozen different languages. The careful dignity and ancient wisdom that the Council had always prided itself on had completely disappeared, replaced by desperate fear and barely controlled chaos. Order! Order! Prime Veltar's energy form flared desperately as he tried to regain control of the session. We must address each crisis in a systematic manner. Defense Coordinator Thaxel stepped forward, his crystalline body resonating with frequencies that showed extreme stress. The Draconic Empire has now conquered 7 complete star systems in the spiral arm. Our combined fleets cannot match their rate of advance or respond quickly enough to their attacks. Current projections indicate they will reach core Council worlds within 6 standard cycles. The chamber erupted in new waves of frightened discussion. The Draconic Empire had been contained for over 1,000 years, held back by the threat of human rapid response forces. Without that deterrent, the ancient enemy was moving faster than anyone had thought possible. The medical situation has become catastrophic, reported Chief Healer Morden, his plant-like form visibly wilted from exhaustion. The Corvin plague has mutated beyond our ability to treat it. Our traditional remedies are now completely ineffective against the new strain. Without immediate human medical intervention, we project over 2 billion casualties across the affected star systems. Trade Minister Kalveth's metallic body shimmered with distress as he presented his economic reports. Complete economic collapse appears imminent. 47 major trade routes have been abandoned due to pirate activity. Industrial output has fallen 78% across all Council territories. The galactic economy is in complete free fall. Sage Nixandra floated forward, her gossamer form barely visible from shame and exhaustion. Our meditative councils have proven completely inadequate for resolving any of these practical crises. The philosophical approach that has guided us for millennia simply does not work when dealing with enemies who respond only to immediate action. Hive Queen Zexix's mandibles clicked frantically as she delivered her own dire report. My colony worlds are in open rebellion. Without human peacekeeping forces to maintain order and resolve disputes, my people demand complete independence from my rule. Multiple systems are approaching civil war. Prime Veltar's energy form dimmed as he finally turned to address the human delegation directly. The proud, condescending tone that had characterized all his previous interactions with humans was completely gone, replaced by naked desperation. Ambassador Morrison, humanity's immediate assistance is required to address these multiple crises. We are prepared to offer significant concessions in exchange for the restoration of our previous cooperative arrangements. Jake stood slowly, his expression carefully neutral. Inside, he felt a complex mixture of satisfaction at seeing the council, humbled and genuine concern for the innocent people who were suffering because of their leader's arrogance. What kind of concessions are you offering, Prime Veltar? Full council membership with voting rights proportional to your population. Preferential trade agreements that favor human interests. Military cooperation treaties with shared command. Authority. Jake paused, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Those are the same things we requested 3 years ago when we first petitioned for membership. You refused our request then, remember? You called us children. You said we were violent, short-sighted, and immature. The chamber fell completely silent. Every representative present understood that this was the crucial moment. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and humanity held all the cards. Perhaps our previous assessment was incomplete, Veltar admitted, his energy form flickering. Weakly. Incomplete, Jake repeated thoughtfully, savoring the word. Let me paint you a picture of what has been happening in human space while you have been dealing with your various crises. We have established 23 thriving colonies in the void territories. Our industrial output has tripled compared to what we achieved under council oversight. We have developed new technologies, new medical treatments, and new defensive systems that surpass anything in your databases. Jake paused to let that information sink in before continuing. We have also made peaceful first contact with 4 previously unknown species who are eager to trade with us and learn from us. We have built a civilization that actually works, where different species cooperate as equals rather than following the dictates of supposedly superior beings. Newly appointed Secretary of State Patricia Hill stepped forward to stand beside Jake. And we have accomplished all of this without your oversight, your restrictions, or your condescending advice. It turns out that children can achieve quite remarkable things when adults stop micromanaging their every decision. Prime Veltar's form pulsed with increasing desperation. Please, name your terms for assistance. We are prepared to consider any reasonable proposal. Jake exchanged a meaningful glance with Patricia before responding. Reasonable? That is an interesting choice of words. Was it reasonable for you to ignore our contributions for 50 years while benefiting enormously from them? Was it reasonable for you to dismiss us as children when we asked for equal representation? Was it reasonable for you to assume we would always be available to solve your problems while having no voice in preventing them? What is it that humanity wants? Demanded Hive Queen Zexekth, her voice sharp with frustration. Recognition, Jake said simply, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. Not as junior partners or useful servants, but as complete equals. Full membership in an expanded council that includes our new allies from the void territories. Shared governance based on contribution and capability, not just age and tradition. Most importantly, acknowledgement that humanity brings something valuable to galactic civilization not despite our youth and energy, but precisely because of it. The council representatives looked around at each other, their ancient pride warring visibly with their desperate need for human assistance. The galaxy was literally burning around them, and the only firefighters available had just presented their bill for services. We require time to consider these proposals, Prime Veltar said weakly, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. Of course, Jake replied with false courtesy. Take all the time you need to discuss it among yourselves. I am sure the draconic Empire will wait patiently while you debate. The plague victims will certainly understand the need for careful deliberation. The pirates attacking your trade ships will probably slow down their raids to give you more time to reach a decision. The sarcasm in his voice was unmistakable, and several council representatives visibly flinched at the implications. They were out of time, out of options, and completely dependent on the goodwill of the species they had spent decades treating as inferiors. Jake turned to leave, then paused at the chamber entrance. "One more thing, Prime Veltar. The next time we meet, it will be as equals negotiating the terms of a new galactic government, not as supplicants begging for acceptance from our supposed betters." The massive doors closed behind the human delegation, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For the first time in their long history, the ancient species of the galaxy were being forced to confront the possibility that wisdom and age were not the same thing, and that sometimes the youngest voice in the room might also be the wisest. Admiral Kevin Murphy stood on the bridge of the Earth Federation dreadnought Defiance and watched the draconic fleet retreat in complete disarray. The Joint Human Council Task Force had achieved in 3 weeks what the Council alone had failed to accomplish in 6 months of desperate fighting. "Enemy fleet jumping to hyperspace," reported Captain Helen Brooks from the tactical station, her voice filled with satisfaction. "They are abandoning the outer colonies and falling back toward their home systems. All invasion forces are in full retreat." "Outstanding work, everyone," Murphy acknowledged, looking around at his mixed crew of humans and alien officers. "Signal our Council allies to maintain pursuit formation Delta. Let's make sure the Dragons understand that their invitation to leave Council space is permanent this time." Dr. Carl Peterson, the fleet's chief medical officer, approached with his latest status report. "Admiral, the plague containment operation is complete across all affected systems. Our joint medical teams have successfully treated all infected populations using the new treatment protocols we developed. The cure rate is running at 94% effectiveness, which is better than anything previously recorded in Council. Medical databases." Secretary of State Patricia Hill, who had been observing the operation from the diplomatic section of the bridge, smiled with deep satisfaction. "Admiral, I am receiving final confirmation from all sectors of Council space. The new Galactic Cooperative Council has officially ratified the Charter with unanimous approval. Humanity and our 4 allied species from the Void territories are now full members with completely equal representation." Murphy nodded with approval as he studied the tactical display. The galaxy looked fundamentally different now than it had just 1 year ago. The old council, thoroughly humbled by their spectacular failures, had agreed to completely dissolve their ancient hierarchy in favor of a truly cooperative government where decisions were made based on contribution and capability, rather than age and supposed wisdom. "What is our next assignment?" asked Commander Tony Walsh from the navigation station. "The Andorian systems have requested our assistance with developing their infrastructure," Patricia replied, consulting her diplomatic briefing materials. "The Tau Ceti colonies want our help establishing new secure trade routes through previously dangerous sectors. It seems word is spreading throughout the galaxy that humans and their allies actually get things done efficiently. The crucial difference is that now we are being asked to help as partners instead of being commanded to serve as subordinates," Murphy observed. "We are working with these species as equals instead of being treated like useful tools, communications." Officer Grace Turner looked up from her console with an excited expression. "Admiral, incoming priority message from Earth. President Martin sends his personal congratulations on the successful completion of the crisis resolution mission. He also wanted to remind you that the Cooperative Council's first joint deep space exploration mission launches next month. The expedition into the unknown regions." Murphy nodded thoughtfully. 12 different species working together as true partners to explore what lies beyond all known space. The kind of ambitious mission that the old council would have spent decades debating and planning before ever taking any real action. Dr. Peterson chuckled as he reviewed his medical reports. "It is remarkable what can be accomplished when you combine human initiative and rapid response capabilities with alien wisdom and advanced technology, instead of trying to suppress one approach in favor of the other." The bridge fell into a comfortable silence as the crew watched the stars ahead of them. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness lay new worlds, new civilizations, and new challenges that would test everything they had learned about cooperation and mutual respect. But for the first time in galactic history, they would be facing those challenges as a truly united community of equals. "Set course for the Kepler stations," Murphy ordered his navigation team. "Time to head home and begin preparations for our next great adventure." As the human fleet engaged their hyperspace drives, carrying with them their alien allies and newly forged friendships built on respect rather than hierarchy, the galaxy settled into a new kind of peace. It was not the static, contemplative peace that the old council had maintained through rigid tradition and condescending oversight. Instead, it was a dynamic, growing peace built on the recognition that different species brought different strengths to shared endeavors. The council had finally learned their most important lesson about human nature. Push humans away and treat them as inferiors, and they would simply leave to build something better on their own terms. Invite them in as true equals and partners, and they would gladly help build something magnificent that benefited everyone involved. The humans had indeed left in silence, taking with them not just their ships and technology, but their vision of what galactic civilization could become when it was based on cooperation rather than domination. They had returned not as conquering heroes, but as partners, bringing with them the hard-won wisdom that true strength came from unity built on mutual respect rather than hierarchy built on arbitrary assumptions about superiority. In the end, the crisis had never really been about proving human superiority over alien wisdom or alien experience over human innovation. It had been about learning to recognize that different approaches and perspectives were not threats to be suppressed, but strengths to be celebrated and combined. The galaxy was immeasurably stronger for having learned that lesson, and the new Cooperative Council was wiser for having been forced to confront the limitations of their old ways of thinking. The humans had left in silence when they were dismissed and devalued, but they had returned with the sound of 1 billion voices working together in harmony, singing the song of a galaxy that had finally learned to value contribution over condescension, action over endless deliberation, and genuine cooperation over rigid control. The future stretched out before them, bright with possibilities that none of them could have achieved alone, but all of them could reach together as partners in the greatest adventure the galaxy had ever undertaken.